Landmark Supreme Court cases with Michael and Patrick, Schneck v. U.S. and Gideon v. Wainwright.
Schneck v. U.S. was a landmark Supreme Court case that took place in 1919. The Espionage and Sedition Act made it illegal to speak out anything critical of American involvement in World War I. Charles Schneck was the Secretary of the Socialist Party of America. He mailed circulars to draftees in an attempt to criticize the draft. The circulars urged, do not submit to intimidation, but advise peaceful action such as petitioning to repeal the Conscription Act. Schneck was jeopardizing America's trust in the draft, which the court deemed very important. The case was brought to court when Schneck's client urged he was innocent because he was only exercising free speech under the First Amendment, and the Espionage Act was unconstitutional. This was the first case that challenged the modern perspective of the First Amendment. The Supreme Court urged that an attempt to obstruct the draft is a criminal offense, and agreed with Schneck's conviction. The significance of this case was that the United States said that freedom of speech could be limited if it caused a clear and present danger. This was the first time the U.S. challenged the people's rights in the First Amendment. It set a precedent for future cases to deal with the First Amendment and how it applies to the people, such as Brandenburg v. Ohio and Citizens United versus FEC. In the end, Schneck's conviction was very controversial, and you must ask yourself, was speaking out against the draft truly a clear and present danger?
The case of Gideon v. Wainwright was brought about when Clarence Earl Gideon, a drifter with an 8th grade education, was charged with breaking into a Florida bar. Previously, Gideon had spent time in and out of prisons for non-violent crimes. This time, however, was different, as his misdemeanor was viewed as a felony under Florida law. At his trial, Gideon represented himself as he could not afford a lawyer of his own. A request for the judge to appoint a counsel for him was denied, leaving Gideon on his own. As expected, Gideon provided a weak argument and did a poor job of defending himself. As a result, he was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years in prison. After the trial concluded, Gideon filed a petition to the Florida Supreme Court challenging his conviction and sentence because of his lack of lawyer or counsel, arguing that it violated his constitutional rights. The Florida Supreme Court denied this petition, forcing Gideon to write one to the Supreme Court. The court agreed to hear the case. It unanimously voted in favor of Gideon, ruling that a right to counsel should be guaranteed in state courts. Because no lawyer was present in Gideon's case, the trial was ruled unconstitutional. This case set the standard for the operations of state courts today. Now, if a defendant cannot afford a lawyer, one is provided to them by the state. This changed the legal system of America, providing more fair trials to every citizen instead of only those who could afford it.